missed opportunity from this week's episode is that evil Mamoru Chiba did not have a little devil's mustache or goatee. In this week's episode of Sailor Moon Crystal, Usagi finally gets her reunion with Mamoru Chiba. The only problem is, he's now evil. An evil puppet being controlled by Queen Beryl. He's been sent in to find the Sailor Senshi's secret command center, which is going to result in a lot of flashy action and lengthy transformation sequences. There's some pretty interesting details about this week's episode. First, that sword they brought back from the moon is pretty freaking awesome. It can crush diamonds, so it's pretty powerful, and it almost seems as if the moon will have substances like this all over it, and they don't really elaborate on that too much, and I'm sure they're saving that for later. But what is interesting is actually how this episode opens up and how it ends, because it sort of gives you this warning that something bad might actually happen to Luna, the talking cat. And that's because at the very beginning of the episode, Usagi is having this nightmare, and she's suddenly awoken, and this is when Luna reassures her that if she wants to, she can talk to her about anything. And it's a very lovey-dovey, cheesy moment, but you basically think, huh, I wonder how long until something really bad is going to happen to that talking cat right there. And just pay attention, it eventually does happen. So evil Mamoru Chiba is nearly identical to the real one, except for the fact that he has red eyes and the ability to basically implant memories into someone's mind. And he basically is posing as that guy at the arcade's friend. His name is Endo, and he's using this so that he can get close to the Sailor Senshi and find their secret base. And eventually that's what does happen, because essentially he just butters up Usagi. She's just sort of starstruck when she sees him again, and she doesn't really know what to believe. And then eventually it all leads to a big flashy battle in the command center, where all of the Sailor Senshi go through their very lengthy transformation sequences, and I'm really surprised that they did all of them at once, and even the catchphrases, as well as Usagi. It really takes up a huge chunk of the episode, but then again, they did this back in the 90s as well in the original run, and I remember them doing it on Toonami all the time. So in a way, I kind of like it. It's delightfully old school. But what I really loved about this episode is the fact that evil Mamoru Chiba gets into his tuxedo mask attire, and he starts attacking with his cape by basically just like twirling it around and having these big blasts of evil black energy just destroy everything in their wake. And even Sailor Venus has this electrified love whip, which is both awesome and hilarious all at the same time. But eventually they're all defeated, except of course for Sailor Moon and Luna. And Luna decides to just run in and start attacking Tuxedo Mask, until suddenly he grabs her and throws her across the floor in what might be one of the most disturbing and violent scenes of the entire series. And honestly, it was really shocking. I didn't expect that at all. And I mean, let's face it, guys. Luna's going to be okay, especially with Sailor Moon's healing powers. I think everything's going to be just fine, but this actually really pisses her off, and she decides to use her healing escalation abilities on him, but it doesn't seem to work, and suddenly Queen Beryl arrives, and all shit is about to break loose. So, what's the rundown? On this week's episode of Sailor Moon Crystal, it was a very simple episode, but actually I still enjoyed it. It's a really dumb, cheesy show, but if you're a fan of the original Sailor Moon, you're probably going to dig it. What I really think I loved most about this episode is just how it never takes itself too seriously. There's a lot of moments where I'm always finding myself laughing at scenes where I probably shouldn't be laughing, like when Tuxedo Mask is waiting for the Sailor Senshi to meet him at the arcade. It's like pitch black, he's just sitting there playing this video game, and it looks like he's totally having a really good time, and I'm not sure why, but I just found that really funny. It is kind of strange that they decided to show all of the transformation sequences, because that took up a very large portion of the episode, but I still have to admit a lot of them do look really flashy, and after seeing them a number of times, I think I've finally decided that Sailor Mercury's is my favorite. I just love the water look of it. It's definitely the most, I think, visually appealing of the transformation sequences. And I like that Sailor Venus was the one who took charge in this week's episode. She almost seemed like she was the leader at this point, and I wish we could have seen her do a little bit more. And that goes for pretty much everybody. I would have liked to see maybe a little more action. They all do get their opportunity to fight against Tuxedo Mask, but they all basically get their asses handed to them. And then we have Usagi herself, who is a character who is going through like a roller coaster of emotions and confidence. Like in one episode, she's ready to kick some ass. In this one, she's back to being sort of like the unsure like leader of the team. and I was kind of hoping that wasn't going to happen, but after the whole Luna incident, which, like I said, is actually still pretty disturbing, she decides to go all freaking Super Saiyan and just go crazy. But then Queen Beryl just appeared, and I loved her entrance, how she suddenly just appeared behind Tuxedo Mask's cape. It was very creepy, actually. At least that's the way I looked at it. But otherwise, this was still just kind of an average episode of the series of, frankly, a kind of average anime series. Despite that, it's still very entertaining, and it's certainly a time capsule for the 90s, and old school fans of Sailor Moon are certainly going to appreciate it. New school fans, maybe not so much, but you never know, just give it a watch. You might get some laughs, and you might even enjoy some of the action scenes and the really quirky and ridiculous characters. I especially loved the scene where Sailor Venus was thinking that it might look a little weird that she's walking into Ami's big apartment building with this massive deadly sword. I guess she was afraid that security was probably going to end up booting her out, but that didn't happen. They ended up just destroying some diamonds, which is good times! So this was a pretty decent episode, but nothing too mind-blowing, so check it out, fans of Sailor Moon. Thank you guys for watching my review. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And before you guys leave, please tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Sailor Moon Crystal in the comments section below. And what do you want to see from the rest of this brand new Sailor Moon anime series? Before you leave, you can also subscribe to our channel by clicking on the channel icon right up here. And you can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter.